The first 6 months phase of this strategy is about role mastery. For most people, the idea of mastering a role in 6 months seems preposterous. Hopefully, at the end of this lesson, it should feel a lot more reasonable. Because this strategy is not suggesting you should master every facet of your role in 6 months. This is probably not possible, especially the higher up you go on a corporate ladder. Total mastery is not the aim. The aim is to ensure that the key people, and only the key people, believe you're a great hire, believe you've got it, and can rely on you. In this context, there are 4 keys to role mastery in your first 6 months. Starting with the realization that you've already got this. You were hired because you were the best candidate, had most of the correct skills, experiences, and capabilities. So, what you want to focus on is to be brilliant. And to be brilliant requires you to do just a little more than what's expected of the role, and then get credit for everything that matters. Thirdly, you must never become irreplaceable. Always have a successor ready to go. And lastly, you must focus on winning over the key people, ensuring they believe you are brilliant. It's often a really small number of people. Let's dive into each of these in more detail. The first requirement for the key people to consider you brilliant in your role is to truly internalize the undeniable fact that you were the chosen one. You likely went through a competitive process and won out. Whatever was said during the negotiation phase was just that, a negotiation. The only thing that matters now is that you are in the role because you already have the experience needed for it. If, in your current role, you are not getting credit for the impact you are making, the credit crunch strategy will help you. It could also be that people simply don't perceive the value you bring, so there's work to be done on your image. The image mastery strategy focuses on this. It may be that you need to gain some additional capabilities. Then, the Beyond 9 to 5 strategy will help you prioritize how to invest in yourself. Truly knowing that you are the chosen one should help you focus on being perceived to be brilliant. And to do this requires 2 things. The first will seem obvious, but we'll get into it momentarily. You have to be great at the job you were hired to do. And then, you need to focus on being perceived to go beyond what was expected. Let's start with unpacking being great at the job you were hired to do. Unless your personal performance is synonymous with company performance, like we saw from the CEOs in the first strategy, or you are in a role that has extremely specific tangible outputs with deadlines making your performance a black and white assessment, your personal performance will be judged subjectively by other people. Even when you have a role with super clear outputs, where your performance should be clear-cut, it's often just not. People are subjective. Accept it and learn how to work with it. Now, the list of these key stakeholders who will be subjectively judging your brilliance is often not very long. The most obvious person is your direct boss, but it could also be clients, vendors, other senior stakeholders, or any combination of these. The lower you are on the corporate ladder, the fewer people this is. Often just one person, your line manager. Higher up on the corporate ladder, it becomes more people. Yet it's rare that it's more than 5 people who need to believe you are brilliant at the job. So, the first step is to clarify who all the people are that must believe you are great at your job. Speak to your boss and find out who determines their success. This will usually very quickly tell you who the other key stakeholders are that you should be paying attention to. During the first 3 to 6 months of any new role, you have a lot of leeway to clarify who these people are. But importantly, also clarify exactly what, when, and how things are expected of you. Make sure you are super clear on these expectations, and then commit yourself to the things that you know you can deliver. Then, make sure you deliver on those commitments. Beyond 6 months, roles tend to scope creep, and sometimes a lot, making it more difficult to establish a foundational belief that you are great at your job, because the requirements keep shifting. It's therefore critical that you act on this immediately as you start a new role. If you've been in your role for a while and have experienced scope creep, or are unclear on the specific requirements for the next 6 months, then you need to find a way to reestablish it and align with the key decision makers before committing and then delivering. You may well be working very hard right now, but on things that are not deemed most important by your key stakeholders. At the same time, you have to then focus on going beyond what is actually expected. What's key here is that you carefully consider if quicker or better delivery will drive the correct perception with the key stakeholders. Which one will make them believe you are going beyond expectations? Usually, delivering the same work faster is easier. Just work faster or longer hours. But the consequence is that you will get more work than your peers. Turning more work delivery into a step up is difficult, as speed is not often a promotable capability. Better on-time delivery is harder, but a much more promotable skill. If you are higher up the corporate ladder and have to deliver through others like your team, making them deliver the same things faster, again won't be promotable and could only make them dislike working for you, as it requires them to often work longer hours. However, improving the way they do things to save them time, or making their output better because of your input, is the version of better you should aim for. Next, you don't have to be better at everything. If you have 10 major deliverables in the next 6 months and you deliver a much better output for 20% of them, your boss will consider you 50% beyond expectations. The impact of better is immense in organizations, as most are wedded to old ways or old structures. Then, if you can't be better, be different. Taking a different approach is a great thing, since it's often confused for better. The major watch-out for both the better and the different approaches is that you need to know what the sacred cows are at your company, like your CEO wants the report to always look exactly the same, and any deviation gets someone fired. Or your client expects something to be done in a very inefficient way, but it's what they've sold internally to their bosses. If you're going to change any of these, be sure to get permission to change it before just delivering a negative surprise. The third element of going beyond expectations is that your direct reports must also consider you as going beyond their expectations. In the image mastery strategy, you will learn the critical importance of your direct reports for your image. In terms of being perceived brilliant in your role within 6 months, it's critical that your direct reports support you. Therefore, 1. Listen and ask questions more than you talk, and always talk last when engaging with them. 2. Give them as much autonomy as you can. Only hard redirect them into a different direction if you truly believe it's make or break. 3. You must add value to them. If you can't improve their work output by changing antiquated ways of doing things or removing blockages that's been hindering them from being brilliant, then improve their lives with other things that matter to them. Maybe it's flexible work hours or the pay increase they've been due for 2 years. If you can both add value in the work product and their lives, they will love you for it and support you. And the final key to going beyond expectations is to never outshine your boss. Sort of the opposite of the previous one, if you think about it. You must not damage the reputation of your key stakeholders in the effort of showing their key stakeholders that you are going beyond expectations. Let your boss tell their stakeholders how brilliant you are. Of course, not all bosses share credit, so pay attention to the credit crunch and shadow forces strategies to overcome this. The third element of role mastery in the first 6 months is to never become irreplaceable. This might sound counterintuitive, but if you are irreplaceable, you become non-promotable. If you are perceived to be brilliant by your boss, your clients, and your team, they will want you to always be around. This is you being irreplaceable to them, but always have successors in the wings. Companies expect senior-level people to have successors. Nothing stops you at any level to earmark a successor or successors. Nothing stops you from training them or from giving them the correct exposure. Ensure your peers and boss know you have them. Bring them into meetings, give them the experience they need to be a successor. Especially do this with your top performers. As you move up the ladder, this will become even more critical as you learn to build highly effective teams. Always be replaceable and ensure your key stakeholders will feel a deep sense of loss if you were to leave by having been perceived to be brilliant. And the final element of role mastery is knowing who to impress, and then to focus on them. We've covered the most critical 5 decision makers earlier in this lesson, but beyond those, there will be other people you want to impress. Do research on the people above you. Listen to other people referring to stakeholders. Then, set up meetings with these people and ask them for guidance on being successful at the company. Again, listen more than you talk. Also, tell your boss that you are meeting with their boss or other senior stakeholders before doing it. If this is a major taboo in your organization, you will need to use the image mastery and beyond boundary strategies to help unlock these opportunities for yourself. Acknowledging right at the start of this lesson that mastering a role in 6 months is daunting, borderline impossible. Through the lessons laid out in this strategy, you will be able to build the perception that you have mastered it, based on delivering better work some of the time. So, the premise is that you don't need to master every aspect of it. You just need to create the perception that you are brilliant at the requirements, have gone beyond expectations, and have the support of the key people, both below and above you. We'll next cover the second 6 months phase of this strategy,